You're watching Tristan, your local virtual game store host. Hey guys, it's me Tristan, and I just wanted to share with you guys the deck that I played in last Saturday's store championships that I got first place with. It's an Amethyst Emerald deck, and we will just explain it very in depth. It's going to be a long video, so I hope you guys grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy. And let's go to the list. Alright, so this is going to be our deck. I'm going to call this the Amethyst Emerald Tempo Aggro Discard Bounce songs deck. And there's clearly a lot of things going on here, so let's just go with the card by card. First off is going to be Chernabog's followers here. We're just going to go list starting from the top to the bottom. So Chernabog's followers is pretty cool. It is a really good card that is inkable and can just be established early on, and then you just start questing. And if you don't need it, or if you're sensing that your opponent wants to remove it, if they have something that can challenge it and live on their turn, you can just quest with it and draw a card. And this ain't no thing but a good thing, drawing cards. Especially against like non-wheel decks. Why is my eyes doing that? Okay, I'm just gonna stare at the camera the entire time. So yeah, against non-wheel decks, it would be very good because you can just keep card advantage that way, just by drawing cards. And yeah, but against wheel decks, you could just blurt it down as a one drop, aggro them down, and you'll just be fine because you're emptying your hand and you're aggroing them down. They'll be less incentivized to heal. So yeah, that's good. It's also inkable, so it's always ink. It's never a bad top deck. It's just one of those cards that you're never really sad to see in your hand. Next is the Maleficent. Maleficent is just a really efficient 2-quester that you can quest with, bounce back, so that doesn't die, and you can just keep questing with it. So it's just a very efficient lore battery. It's also not inkable, which is not ideal, but this is kind of an aggro deck, also kind of a tempo deck, but we really want to aggro them down with high lore count questers in the early game. So we just have to play it. Speaking of uninkable high lore count questers, there's also Cursed Merfolk. Merfolk here is the ideal opener, is what I would say. It's what you want to always be playing on turn 1. It combos really well with Prince John. Combos really well with Madam Mim Snake, Madam Mim Fox, stuff like that, right? So you just are able to flop it down, pressure them, and they can't, if they're not willing to get rid of it, it's just gonna keep questing. If they do get rid of it, they discard a card. If you have Prince John out, you draw a card as well. Or if you have a Mim to bounce it, you can literally just bounce it, then play it back for 1 ink, and then it's gonna be ready to quest again. Just some very efficient stuff. It's really good. And then there's also Madam Mim Snake. This one is just a big stat stick, to be honest. So it's a 3/3, and it looks like it's downside that you have to bounce a card to your hand, but it's really not, because it protects your 1-cost high impact questers like Maleficent and Cursed Merfolk. and it lets you control the board at a 3/3 stat line, which is also really, really good, right? It also has some particular uses with the stuff like Merlin Goat, Merlin Rabbit, and Merlin Crab, which is like you get value off of all the Merlins. You can also just anything you don't want them to challenge bounce back to your hand, like a Singer Ursula or like a Prince John that's exerted. You can just get them back. Or you can get value off of the Ursula Deceiver, the 2-cost one, by playing it and then bouncing it so that you can play it again, so that you can discard multiple songs from them, which is very, very nice. Yeah, Madam Mim Snake kind of just does it all in this deck, which is pretty much really good. Flynn Rider is basically another Merfolk, except it's inkable, but it does cost 1 more. But it's really not that bad, because you if you could be playing more Merfolks, you would for sure. And so yeah, Flynn Rider, just a guy that you can pop down, start getting some lore. Very, very good. Combos again with Prince John. So you can do something like turn 1 Cursed Merfolk into turn 2 Prince John into turn 2 Flynn Rider into turn 3 Prince John. And that would also be the case for like just a very, very good curve, because then if you can quest on turn 3 with both the Merfolk and the Flynn, and that's a lot of pressure already because they're gaining 4 lore a turn. And Prince John, if they do want to challenge your other guys that are exerted, Prince John will make you draw cards, and drawing cards is good. So yeah, it's a really, really good curve there. Ursula Deceiver. This is a really good card. So it's one of the best cards in the game, to be honest, because you can really, really snipe some really good cards against your deck. So normally what's good against your deck is removal and board wipes. And most removals and board wipes are just happen to be songs. So there's Along Came Zeus in the meta, there's Be Prepared in the meta, there's Grab Your Swords, there's Storm Rage Ons, there's Strength of a Raging Fire. Those are all very, very good cards that are pretty much ran in most steel decks and red decks. Or ruby decks, I'm sorry. And just getting rid of them is just primo for this deck. Plus, again, you can reuse it with the foxes and the mims. And it's also a really good target for Crab. So Crab can buff up the Ursula's attack, because this only gets you 1 lore when you quest with it anyways. So it's got a thick booty with 3 health. It's as thick as a Mim. So it can cosplay as a Madam Mim Fox if you put a crab on it, actually, which is it's good. I mean, it's really good. It also just kind of does it all, because it combos again with Prince John. It just protects you from the songs that they're about to play. And yeah, it's quite good, I'd say. Next up, we got the Madam Mim Fox. So this is one of our premium removal and board control spells in this game because it's just a 4/3 rush on turn 3. Not a lot of things can survive, or what do you call this? Strength or strength on turn 3. Like I'm pretty sure anything can die 3 cost or lower. It's like seeing play, except for maybe shift targets, but that's cheating, right? Because Robin Hood is a 3/6 that shifts for 3, but doesn't really equate to 3 because it's shifting. Um, anyways, so it just prevents them from questing at all for the first 3 turns because you have the potential of having a fox in your hand, which is just insane. It also can reuse or quote unquote ready your Maleficents and Merfolks. It can reuse your Ursulas. It can reuse your kit Cloudkickers even. And yeah, it's just right up at the tippy top of card quality, in my opinion. And then Merlin Crab, I only ran 2 of this, strictly because I wanted to keep it at a clean 40 cards. But also, it's not the best by itself. And you're gonna be like, okay, but the Mims are not also the best by itself. But they're really good that you want to run them anyways. But yeah, Crab, not the greatest top deck, not the greatest in an empty board state where you have nothing. But it is pretty good. It helps taking out locations, helps taking out just big threats, and yeah, it's just there if you need it. One thing about this deck that I like is even though I'm running some 2-ofs like Merlin, Merlin Crab, Prince John, and Merlin Rabbit, and Sudden Chill, and Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and Queen's Castle. Even though I'm running those at 2, it's really not that bad because I have so much card draw and like Chernabog's followers, Merlin Rabbits, friends on the other side, Prince John even is card draw. I have so much card draw that you will usually find what you need anyways. And so yeah, Merlin Rabbit's really good. You can also like bump it into something, have it die, and then bump it into some give something else plus challenger, and then have that control the board as well. It's just really huge tempo, like a lot of tempo actually. This card's really good. Next up is Kit Cloudkicker. This one is, I inked him a lot. It's good because he's inkable, but he also just controls the board pretty good. One of the things actually that I ran in trouble with during my runs in the tournament is my opponents would just ink all their cards and play all their cards, and I'd have nothing to discard. Kit Cloudkicker just gives them back a thing, and then you can discard it, which is pretty awesome. And it just gives you more breathing room to develop before your opponents develop, right? Because if you're bouncing their stuff, you're undeveloping their stuff. And then you'll already have like some Maleficents and Merfolks and Flynn Riders hopefully established, and then you can just quest with them because now they don't have characters to challenge them because you Kit Cloudkickered them into their hand. which is just amazing. It's amazing. Next up, we got two Prince Johns. I only ran this at 2 because it is strictly a card that, like Merlin Crab, is not good by itself. So it's good with Merfolks and Flynns and Sudden Chills, but it's not good by itself, right? By itself, if you have no way to discard their things. It's also good with Ursula, by the way. But by itself, if you have no way to discard their things, it is not really that good in your hands. So I ran the cards that I thought are not great by themselves at 2. And that seemed to work out for me. Yeah, it seemed to work out for me. But it is another lore quester. It quests for 2. And so it just adds to the pressure that you can have out, right? And it also has ward, which does come up because usually they'll be like, oh my lord, they're gonna what do you call this? They're gonna discard my hand. I need to get rid of it. But if they have ward and it's like unexerted, they can't really do that, right? Which is always nice. I wouldn't recommend you playing more of this unless you go heavier on the discard stuff like Friar Tuck or even Daisy, the secret agent one or something. But yeah, it's not great unless you draw it with a specific combination of cards. Ursula, though, however, is one of the best cards in probably the 3rd set. I would say it's just one of the best cards, period, in the 3rd set. It doubles up on songs. So if you sing a 3-cost song, you're just basically gonna be able to sing 6 mana worth of stuff for 0 mana. I say mana, but I mean ink, right? So you can sing 6 ink worth of stuff for 0 ink just by using Ursula, and that's really good. So you can basically have friends on the other side to draw 4 cards. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo can bounce something 4 times, and Mother Knows Best can bounce stuff to their hand 2 times, or your hand 2 times. Sudden Chill can discard 2 cards, etc., etc. So, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's just really good. It's easy to protect it as well. You can bounce it with your Madam Mims. You can keep the board clear by bouncing their stuff. So they'll have to use like hard removal on it. That's one of the only things that kills it. Actually, I feel like nobody was ever able to challenge my Ursulas in my games. They just had to they just had to kill it some other way, like with removal. Merlin Goat at 4. Okay, so before I move on to Merlin Goat, I specifically kept my entire deck to be at a curve of 1 to 4, so that I could stay at 4 ink to 6 ink in my games and still be able to play the game at a very, very like efficient manner. Right, I could still cast a bunch of stuffs on my turn and not feel like I'm behind against like ramp decks that are like at 10 ink or so or whatever. So yeah, just keep the curve 4 and below and play everything, play anything you draw. And yeah, so Merlin Goat here is actually one of the more insane cards in this deck, especially with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. So what you can do with Merlin Goat is you quest with it, gain 1 lore, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo sing with Ursula, and then you will gain 4 more lore. So that's just absolutely insane. So you can win at like, you could be at like 11 and all of a sudden you just quest out with your board and then sing with Ursula, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and a Merlin, and all of a sudden you won, right? Your opponents are not going to expect you to just win out of nowhere sometimes, which is pretty unfair, I would say. It's almost like a burn spell in Magic, right? So it's a pretty big burn spell too at that. It's just constant pressure as well because you can just quest with it, and if they kill it, you gain 1 lore anyways, right? Also got a fat attack stat or strength stat. I keep forgetting the word strength, but it's also got a fat strength stat combined with like crabs and just take out locations, take out anything that's exerted. Nothing much will survive a 7 attack in this game. 7 strength attack or challenge is what I meant to say. Nothing much can survive a 7 strength challenge in this game. It clears Queen's Castles, it clears Robin Hoods, it clears Maui's, it clears like a lot of things, right? So things that come out even later on in the game, as long as they exert it, you can challenge it with the goat. And it could die. Very well could die. Next up is Merlin Rabbit. This is my flex spot. I originally did not want to run this because it's uninkable, but I found myself needing just a tiny bit more card draw because if you don't see Ursula friends, you might run out of cards. But if you are able to at least sing Ursula, friends with Ursula once, you're never gonna run out of cards in that game, which is very good. Like it's honestly just amazing. If you Ursula friends, draw 4 cards, it's just oop. You just have so many cards now. So yeah, Merlin is just that tiny bit, just in case I don't see it. But again, it's not even supposed to be in this deck. I already have so many uninkables. But it's also just a good top deck. It shouldn't deserve a 2 spot, to be honest. If you're gonna run this, run less uninkables and run more of this. And I'd say this could even be a 4 of if you're running into like matchups where you have to value out more. But if you're not trying to value out more and or outvalue your opponents with card draw, then don't run this at all. Right? So it's very matchup dependent. It's just a hinge, which is why I ran it at 2 ultimately. But yeah, it's just a hinge for like some matchups. Sudden Chill. Sudden Chill is a really good song. Sing it with Ursula. discard 2 things from their hands, and they'll just have no hand. Right? Combos very well with Prince John, like I said. It also gives your Ursula Deceiver 2 costs a job, right? So same with Crab. It gives your Ursula Deceiver a job of like challenging and controlling the board. Sudden Chill is the same thing. So you can sing it with the Ursula 2 cost and they'll discard a card. And essentially you're using that opportunity to, like, once you play the Ursula, it doesn't really have value anymore. It's just a 1/3 that's sitting there. But having this 2-cost song or having a Crab the turn after is just really, really nice. It can, you know, it can do something with the Ursula that otherwise is not doing anything. It's just gaining you 1 lore. And sometimes you might not even want to do that. But yes. So yeah, Sudden Chill, pretty good. Combos with Prince John, combos with both Ursulas, and it's a pretty bad top deck if they don't have a card. But it's always inkable, so I mean, if you have other things to play, you can just ink it and then play your other things. Hopefully it draws you cards, and then play whatever you draw. Friends on the other side, really, really good card since set 1. This just says 0 mana, exert a character, or 0 ink, exert a character, draw 2 cards. That's like one of the most insane things you can play in a card game. This deck has quite a few singers for it, actually. So, like the explanation I gave with the 2-cost Ursula with the Sudden Chill, this one gives a job to your kit Cloudkickers if you don't have an Ursula Deceiver of All. This one gives a job to your kit Cloudkickers that otherwise aren't doing anything, because they might just be sitting there as a 2/2 that quests for 1. We don't want that. We want them to do a lot more than that. So all of the 3-cost spells actually just are being able to be sung by your other things. Even Prince John can sing this. Even Crab can sing this, right? They're all good singers for it. So it's really good. Obviously, it's card draw. It's always there. But yeah, you just want to max out on this. If you see this with Ursula, you'll never run out of cards. And then 2 Bibbidi Bobbidi Boos. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is, like I said, most of the things that I ran 2 of need to be seen with another card. And yeah, so this one is really good with, like I said, the Merlin Go. It's the draw or gain 5 lore play. Also good with the Merlin Rabbit. But one of the applications that I've actually seen work against is stuff like things that challenge a lot, like Mauis and Scars, right? If you're scared of Mauis and Scars, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is actually one of the best cards in your deck against those cards, because you can sing it with Ursula, right? If you have like a couple of Madam Mim snakes or foxes or whatever, you can quest out with your board, right? Say you quest with Maleficent, Cursed Merfolk, and then you had 2 snakes, you quested with those as well. So you gained like what, 6 lore. And then you sing with Ursula Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. bounce a snake to your hand, play the snake. Snake will bounce like one of the Maleficents to your hand. Bottom deck the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Sing it again with Ursula. Bounce the Madam Mim snake, the other one that you didn't just play, the one that's already exerted. Madam Mim snake will bounce. Well, you'll play it again, and then Madam Mim snake will bounce the Merfolk, and then you can play the Maleficent and the Merfolk again. And you only spent 2 ink to do all that, gain 6 lore, and essentially ready all of your characters. Which is, that's insane. It's like anti get challenge technology, which is, I mean, if that ain't doing it for you, I don't know what will. So yeah, it's an amazing card. Obviously, it turns into a pseudo friends on the other side with a Merlin rabbit. Turns into a burn spell with Merlin goat. You can even Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo a kit and bounce up their field if you really wanted to. Or you could just Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo to ready your stuff. And yeah. There's also 4 Mother Knows Bests. Again, you'll be doing a lot of discarding. You want to refill their hand, and you also want to control the board by them having no characters in play and you having characters in play. So, yeah. And then you can sing it with Ursula, you can sing it with any of your 3-cost guys. It's just a very high impact song. And then lastly, 2 Queen's Castle. This is a card that lets you put things into the location, and at the start of your turn, you draw for the Queen's Castle. This is just one of those cards that is very solid, I guess. It's good against Be Prepared because you don't want to be having stuff out against Be Prepared. You'd rather have locations out. It's good against Steel. But yeah, it's like it's just there. It gains you 2 lore a turn. It's got a thick 7 willpower booty. Only costs 1 to move stuff in there, which is surprising. If I were to balance this card, I would make it 2. But again, it's not great on its own. It's good with characters, but you'd have to find your characters before finding Queen's Castle. You can't have too many Queen's Castles in your hand. It's not good on its own. That's why it's only a 2 of. But yeah, that's basically it for the entire deck list. Tough matchups, I'd say, is like Steel. Steel is anything with Steel is a tough matchup. But it's not unwinnable. I don't think I've had an unwinnable matchup with this deck, at least. And yeah, I mean, it's an aggro tempo bounce discard songs deck, and I mean, if that ain't your cup of tea, it's mine. I enjoyed it. Got first place with it in my store championships, and I hope you guys give this deck a try. I mean, it's a very solid deck. And I'll see you guys whenever I make another video, I guess. Peace.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りしました。